I thought it was important because although some of these people who put up this extraordinary resistance to the biggest empire on the planet, these events are, by the way, not a long time ago. These are not ancient events. These are events, some of which happened within living memory. So these names have not been forgotten. People still know the name of Raj Bihari Bose or Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose or Bhagat Singh, Ajit Singh and so on. But the impression you get from reading our textbooks is that they were individual acts of bravery that was somehow unconnected to the wider story. At best, they were a side story, got in the way of the main movement, which was the passive movement of non-violent resistance. Unfortunately, that is not the story you come across when you begin to actually dig through the archives, look at the conversations that the British themselves were having, and of course the conversations that was happening in the public discourse at that time. The revolutionaries were very much a part of public discourse, of the thinking of the British intelligence of that time. And then, even to understand the Indian National Congress itself, you need the story of the revolutionaries. In fact, the Indian National Congress had lots of different streams, which included, by the way, many of these revolutionaries. They were powerful enough inside the Congress that Netaji Subhash Bose was able to win an open election against the Gandhians. And of course, it's a different matter that he was later on pushed out through backroom channels. But the fact is that even within the Congress, the revolutionaries were able to hold their own. And this sort of story of the revolutionary resistance, unfortunately, was almost deliberately suppressed after independence. The reason for that is not far to seek. Almost all the senior members of the revolutionary movement were dead by this point in time. Whether it's Raj Bihari Bose or Sachindranath Sanyal or Bismil, Netaji had gone missing or dead, depending on your belief. The fact is, when India became independent, there was no revolutionary leader of stature who could kind of be a part of the conversation. And as a result, a particular stream of the Congress party took power. And perhaps it's human that they would emphasize their own role. In itself, this is not wrong. But what I think is wrong is that there seems to have been a deliberate attempt to erase the memory of many of these greats who gave their lives and everything in order to make sure that we enjoy the freedoms we do today. Historians like R.C. Majumdar, for example, who had been originally given the job of writing the official history of India's freedom struggle, he was evicted when he began to talk about these other streams of history. Moreover, it is important to remember that the revolutionaries were not just doing their little bit. They were linked to peasant movements like the Eka movement led by Madari Pasi. They were linked to tribal revolts like those led by Alluri Sitarama Raju, now made famous by RRR. But a person, again, much forgotten till this movie came along. So this is a much larger story. Unfortunately, independent India did not give them their due credit. The soldiers of the INA, the sailors of the naval revolt of 1946 were not taken back into the Navy and Army after independence. They were not even recognized for decades as being freedom fighters. It's only very recently that they were given a recognition, and it's only 2 years ago that for the very first time that INA veterans were actually taken for a parade. The few that are still alive today were taken for a parade down the Republic Day, down Kartavya Marg, then called Rajpath. So, this book really is my humble tribute to this extraordinary effort all these people did. This was a big effort involving tens of thousands of people, not only within India, but across the world. The revolutionaries had networks in Germany, in Japan, in North America, in Ireland, in Singapore, and many of the streams of our national consciousness to this day derive from the revolutionaries, even if you do not know this. And this is across the political spectrum, whether it is the CPI or the RSP on the left, or the RSS on the right, and many streams of the Congress in between. Many of them have their origins in this revolutionary movement. It is even true, incidentally, of those who oppose India. Not many of you may realize that the Khalistani movement has its origins in the British attempt to subvert the Ghadarites. So some of you may have wondered, why is it that the Khalistani movement is based so much in Canada? Well, it is because the North American Sikhs were very much a part of the Ghadarite revolutionary movement, and they used to operate through a network of Gurudwaras, which were then infiltrated by the British intelligence officer called Hopkinson. And large amount of money was spent in trying to separate the Sikhs from the Hindus and from the revolutionaries. And in a court in Canada, Hopkinson was shot dead by a Ghadarite called Meva Singh. Now, I'm quite certain there are almost nobody in this audience who actually has heard of Meva Singh. But Meva Singh actually shot dead Hopkinson back in, I think it was 1914 or 1915.